All right, hey everybody, welcome to my nSuns 531 review. Let's get straight to the point. So I started this program after about 10 months of lifting experience. Before that, I was basically sedentary. I didn't do any exercise whatsoever. And my lifts in the beginning were 260 for 8 high bar squat, no knee sleeves, but with a belt. 107 no belt for overhead press. 245 for 11 for sumo deadlift, and bench is 145 for 5. And I use the belt for sumo deadlift. And then I ran this program from April 10th, 2018, that week. I did strong lifts 5x5 and fracs Great Skull LP before that. So I ran nSuns from here all the way to November of 2019. And my best lifts after like almost a year and a half, a bit over a year and a half of nSuns is 355 for 4 low bar squat with a belt and knee sleeves, 160 for 2 on overhead press, 415 for 3 on sumo deadlift, and 230 for 3 on bench touch and go. And then I went to Candido's LP for a few months, and then COVID hit, and then I went back to nSuns to really get back my numbers. It was tough going back to so much volume. And then my last week of this program was right here, right? 335 for 4 for squat, 155 for 6 overhead press, 420 for 4 sumo deadlift, and 245 for 5 on bench. And honestly, all 4 of my lifts stalled by the time I quit. The first time I quit, and even like the last time I quit. So now let's go into some details, right? So pros and cons. So the first pro of this program is this program teaches you how to do the main lifts better, and the variations, right? The T1 and the T2, and it teaches you to eventually, at least, to learn how to auto regulate, right? Or you'll get injured basically. So I had a good sense of how to squat, how to overhead press, how to deadlift, how to bench. But because I was doing this so often, and as a conscientious person, I know to improve my form over time. So this program gave me a lot of practice at heavier weights, but also at lighter weights, right? The AMRAP sets, the last AMRAP set for the T1s really allowed me to practice my form, and time under tension with high reps at a low weight, right? Like low weight compared to my 1RM. So that was a really good opportunity every week for all of my lifts, right? So I really enjoyed that. And by the time I was stalling, like hitting the same reps for my 1+ set multiple weeks, I learned how to lower the training max by 10% and resetting. So that allowed me to work back up and then auto regulate, in that way, like reset my training max, but also on a day-to-day basis, right? Dropping any assistance exercises or just doing all of it, and knowing how my body worked, how my body recovered doing so many back exercises. How did my body recover from benching? Was 3 days of benching enough for me? Turned out that I was better with benching 4 times a week, but less volume on each of those days, right? So learning a lot about how I worked, and I was able to transfer all this knowledge to my programs that I did after this. But if you really focus on improving your form over time, I think this program has a lot of value to help you really improve your form and improve your work capacity and everything. But that goes to my second point. The other pro is there's lots of volume, right? So it's kind of like do as much as you can to grow kind of formula, right? There were a lot of programs where I wasn't growing as much, like on bench press. On this program, like my bench press, eventually after like 6 months, a year, it blew up. Right, I went from 145 for 5. In a year, I went to 190 for like 3. Right, I know that's not super amazing progress, but my bench was terrible, especially for my body weight. My body weight was like 210 pounds, and I was benching like 160 for like 3. But I was able to stay at the same body weight and increase my bench by a lot on this program. and adjusting my form and everything. So there's lots of volume for you to practice, but also be able to grow, right? Low volume for true beginners, I think, works for a while, right? When your body hasn't done any sort of exercise like this, but a lot of volume, whether or not it's too much, it works because there's so much there. Your body's like, what the hell is this, right? And your body just kind of adapts to it. And if you really are consistent with your workouts, despite the kind of jumbled rep scheme from Shaco, the T2s, right, and the 531, the third week of 531, right, it's kind of a mishmash of a lot of different ideas and principles. It works because there's so much volume, and the AMRAP sets really allow you to push yourself, right? And AMRAPs, like reps to failure sets, are not a new thing, right? So a lot of ideas in this program, but because there's so much volume, it works for a reason. But that's also a part of a con, which I'll talk about. But related to that second pro, the third pro is you're pushing hard every week. You're hitting multiple AMRAP sets for each lift. You're hitting 2 AMRAP sets for squat, 2 for overhead press, 2 for deadlift, 2 for bench, right? You're doing that every week. So you have to push yourself in order to progress. And if you don't push yourself as hard, you won't make as much progress, right? And that first AMRAP set, right, that's where your training max goes up. So you're able to really figure out how strong you are, how much potential you have, and push that every week until you hit a wall. And then you can keep trying that weight for a few weeks, for 4 weeks, and then you lower the training max, right? So you're really pushing hard. And I think as a beginner, like a late beginner, like somebody who knows their basic form for their main lifts and have trained for half a year to a year, someone like me, I didn't know how to truly push myself. And not knowing, RPE, am I really going RPE 10? Am I really hitting 0 reps in the tank, 1 rep in the tank? I didn't know what that was exactly. And this program gave me that experience, right? And allowed me to push harder in this program, but also after, right? And knowing my limits, right? For example, if I pushed RP 10 on my deadlift on conventional or sumo, right? Like I pull conventional as my main deadlift now, but at some point I pull sumo as my main deadlift. And for either lift, if I hit RP 10 on my top set, on my 1+ set, like that would affect my recovery for the next, like noticeably for the next 3 to 4 days. And it will even affect my bench a little bit. But because I'm pushing hard, I know that, right? I get that information. And the fourth pro, the next one, is also pretty much related, is that this program gets you mentally ready for high volume, high frequency, and high intensity programs, right? Because this program is high volume for sure, it's high intensity for sure, and it's high frequency for the lower body at least. Because you're pretty much doing the same amount of volume for lower body and upper body if you're doing the 4-day. If you're doing the 5-day, then there's more upper body volume, which I personally recommend, for my experience, is the most optimal program for me. But yeah, I was able to get my my body and my mind mentally ready every week, every workout. I'm going in there. Oh, I have to hit this for at least 3 reps. I want to hit 5 reps on my squat today, right? So being mentally focused and mentally having an objective, right? Mentally having a goal in my mind to know when to push hard when I'm ready, right? And when I'm not ready, when I'm not feeling so well, right? Learning how to auto-regulate, like I said earlier, but just being mentally ready to push and to do so many sets, right? This program follows a pyramid scheme for T1s, right? So it's so once you get past that top set, you're going down in weight, so it's less overwhelming, but it's still a lot of volume, right? And you really have to be mentally ready to do something like this for more than 2 months. And I did this totally for basically 2 years. So now moving on to the final pro, I think, is that a lot of people do this program as more of a power building program, right? They do the T1, T2, and they do a lot of like higher rep, more hypertrophy focused accessories. So I think on this program, especially if you're a late beginner or even early intermediate, in terms of lifting experience or even your numbers and your body weight, it grows you. It grows your size, right? You can get a much bigger on this program. And I'm not super big, but this program is what got me looking like I work out, right? Because before this program, I looked like, you know, like a regular dude. But after a year on this program, I look like I work out. So those are the pros. The cons. First one, overuse injury is very likely. So before I hopped on this program, I had no problems squatting in knee sleeves. My left knee wouldn't act up. My right knee wouldn't act up, right? But after being on this program for a year and a half, my left knee started hurting. At first, my knees were clicking, but then I started putting on knee sleeves, and that went away. But then my left knee started to hurt. And then eventually my side of my hip, like my TFL area, started to hurt a little bit, like soreness, just pain the day after I low bar squat, right? And then also a few times, like 3 or 4 times, I will bench, and I used the bench with a pretty wide grip. I would get pain in my right armpit and top of my right bicep, and that will still happen even not being on this program. And I've seen a PT, and it has gotten a lot better. But the thing that triggers it is high volume, wide grip benching, which I did a lot of, right? But because I wasn't aware of that at first, it wasn't hurting me, right? Like the injury didn't happen, but and then it happened. So it made a lot of overuse injuries happen with me. Like at some point, I couldn't even like lower the weight or push the weight up because it hurt so much, right? And it also has to do with my form partially, but even now I have way better form than 3-4 years ago, and this is still happening if I wide grip bench for more than like 3-4 sets, heavy sets, right? So if you're on this program, make sure you don't push yourself too hard. I would say honestly RP 8 to 9 on your 1+ MREP sets, and on the MREP set for your last MREP set, maybe just aim for RP 7 or 8, right? Go for like 10 reps on squat, 10 reps on deadlift, because you're already doing so many sets before that. If it works for you and you feel no pain at all, and there's no problem, sure. But I think there's a lot of room for injury here, right? And if you don't know what you're doing and you're just doing it, you're very prone to injury, which can affect your growth long term, right? And my second con relates to the first con. It's easy to push yourself too far in this program, especially on the MRAP sets, right? Knowing myself, I pushed myself in my workouts. And I did, for example, I would do my 5-rep set, my 3-rep set, and my top set. And then I would go like 0 reps in the tank. My form would break down. And I would go for it. And then I wasn't feeling so good. And I would still push for all the sets after that. Right now I would do everything. I would just force myself to go through all of the sets in the program. And I wouldn't skip any of the optional stuff afterwards that I added. So you really have to learn to not push yourself too far and just let yourself recover. And now my third con is related to my second con, which is it's easy to grow imbalances because there's little room for accessories, and many of these single arm, single leg accessories allow you to kind of make your imbalances less of an issue, right? For example, my left leg is slightly smaller in circumference than my right leg. If I never did any single leg stuff, I wouldn't be able to kind of amend that issue, right? But if you're doing so much volume for squat and deadlift on a single day, you might not have enough energy to do more accessories. Maybe leg press, maybe leg extensions, right? But because you're doing so many sets and you're going so high on the intensity and the volume, and let's say your right leg is bigger, right, and stronger, and you push on your right leg when you squat. Over time, your right leg will get stronger faster than your left leg does, and this can make it difficult for you to fix those imbalances, and you have to find room to put in these single leg stuff, the single arm stuff for your triceps, biceps, quads, hamstrings. And on other programs, you're not doing as much work on your main lifts, on your compound lifts, so you have room for it, for more optional stuff to fix your imbalances, right? But this program, because there's so much volume, there's not as much room for that. And it's easy for you to overwork a certain area or a certain side of your body. So that you have to watch out for. And then the last con is the 4-day is not super optimal strength wise for female lifters, I think, because my girlfriend is on this program right now and she only has time for 4 days, right? And she realized that she can have another like a 5th day upper body day and have her upper body lifts blow up, but because she can't go for 5 days, her lower body is getting stronger at a faster pace than her upper body. And already, like females, their lower body are very strong and their upper body is not as strong. So having 2 days for lower body, about the same volume compared to upper body, her lower body is gonna blow up, but her upper body has more room to stall, right? So what I recommended her to do is do a couple tricep exercises on her lower body days. So kind of have higher frequency there, right? But still, that's not ideal, right? So I think if you're a female lifter or even just a male lifter, make sure you have time for these workouts, because they could be 2 hours, even 2.5 hours if you take your time and have a lot of extra optional work at the end. But make sure you do the 5-day if you want your upper body to grow, because I think you can try the 4-day first, but I think the amount of upper body volume needs to be more than lower body, or your upper body is gonna stall faster than your lower body does. So those are the pros and cons that I have. Now, do I recommend this program? Yes, I do. If you know how to do the main lifts with proper form and you want to get stronger, I think you should do this program. But for bodybuilding, like purely bodybuilding, I don't think this is a necessary program. There's other programs like PPL or PHUL, right? You can do other programs that are more focused on bodybuilding principles. Having a back day, having a leg day, a pull day, right? And doing like that might work better than this, and that is not as intense as this program, right? This is more for power building. And also, do not do this program yet if you're not at least a trained novice or you're not accustomed to high volume and high intensity programs, which this program has both, like I said earlier, right? Instead, you can do so many other programs that has lower volume. Starting strength, strong lifts 5x5, Texas method even, Grayskull LP, Frax Grayskull LP, Candido LP. There's so many other programs they can do. Right? You don't need to do this much volume, especially if you're like I said, not a trained novice. And also, it might not be necessary to do this much volume at all. Maybe at your stage, or just overall, even if you're like a intermediate lifter, less volume might give you the same amount of gains in terms of strength for you, right? Or you could be somebody who needs a lot of volume, so this program might work fantastically for you. But you might be someone who can grow their bench to 350 pounds on 1 day a week bench, right? So it all depends on how you are, and I don't think this amount of volume works for everybody. So yeah, that's the end of the video, and hope this has helped. And last but not least, feel free to check out my training log videos for my Stronger by Science strength program that I'm doing 5 days a week. So that's on my channel. So thanks for watching, guys, and see you in my next video. Peace.